We all had to work hard on the farm, chopping weeds out of the cotton patch, taking care of the livestock, feeding, milking. We had chickens and pigs and ducks and turkeys. 1927 and 28 were good years. Mr. Keaton wanted to farm all of his land, so we had to move. When we were picking cotton out in the fall of the year, we all had to go out and drag that old cotton sack and try to fill it full of cotton. Ruby was a baby, and Mom had so much to do in getting our lunch and bringing it out to the field where we were picking. She brought Ruby out and put her on my cotton sack, and I had to pull her along as I picked. And she got heavy, so I dumped her off in the sand, and she was crying. And my sister Madge, she heard her, and she came over to see what was wrong. And there she was there in the sand with dirt all over her face. And she asked me what happened, and I told her that I dumped her. And she said, "Well, you shouldn't have done that. I think I'll just give you a good spanking." And I said, "You're not big enough." Well, that was a mistake. She got a big old cotton stalk limb, worked me over good. I didn't never tell her that anymore. Well, my sister Madge married a guy named Wiley Owen, and they lived 4 miles south, close to Red River. And Wiley and his sisters had inherited 240 acres of sandy land. So we moved to a small house on Wiley's 80 acres. The house was so small that all us kids had to walk to Madge's house to sleep. It was about a quarter of a mile. It wasn't bad in the summer, but winter was different. Snow, cold wind, the 1/4 mile seemed much farther. The school we attended was Lincoln High and Elementary combined. Upper grades were upstairs and the first 6 on the ground floor. One thing that Mom and Dad made sure of was to keep us in school. Although we didn't have very good clothes to wear, Mom sewed and patched a lot and scrubbed on an old washboard to keep us clean. Shoes was the biggest problem. We would pick cotton in the fall to make enough to buy a pair of shoes and some overalls. Mom made our shirts out of anything she could get, like flour sacks. And we would pull off our shoes when we got home from school, and we went barefoot a lot. It wasn't easy for Mom and Dad to keep us fed and clothed, but they managed somehow. Mom could take a little bit of something and make a meal out of it. We never missed any meals. We just postponed a few. We only owned one car. I was growing up. It was a baby Overland, square top, 4-door jalopy. It had a trunk on the back that Dad took off to make room for 3 of us kids to sit on and hang our feet off. Dad rented a farm from a Mr. Cotton. We called it the Old Cotton Place. It was very sandy land and needed lots of rain to grow anything. It contained a 600-acre pasture that went all the way to Red River. There was a lot of jackrabbits, cottontail rabbits, skunks, possums, and rattlesnakes. During the lean times, we ate a lot of rabbit stew. There was a gourd that grew in abundance around our place. The gourds grew about the same size of a baseball. We'd pick a sack of gourds and splice 2 strands of baling wire together. One end was straight and with a loop on the other end. We would stick the straight end through the gourd and bend it and stick it back through and into the gourd. Then one of us would take the other end of the wire and sling the gourd around in a circle with 2 or 3 batters trying to hit it with a bat. Of course, when it was hit, it would splatter. The one who hit it would then become the pitcher. We batted so many gourds that we became very good at hitting curveballs. There was another thing we did with the gourds in the fall when things began to kind of dry up. Those old gourds would get dry and they were very light. You couldn't couldn't throw them very well, but there was a lot of big tumbleweeds around on the bench rows, and so we'd take those tumbleweeds and build forts, choose up sides, and we'd have all big buckets or tub full of those dry gourds, and they were our bullets. And if you got hit with one of them, then you were out. But you couldn't throw one through those tumbleweeds. So Ken, he got a big idea to punch a hole in one of them and take all the insides out and stuff it full of wet dirt. Made it heavier than a baseball. So my cousin Andy, his brother Alfred and Wayne was behind one tumbleweed fort, and Ken and Olin and I was around the other, and we was having a battle throwing those gourds. Well, nobody was getting hit, and we kept trying to hit each other and couldn't. And so Andy, he decided he'd look up over his fort and see what was going on. And about the time he did, Ken threw that loaded gourd and hit old Andy right between the eyes and knocked him out. And that kind of ended the war with the dry gourds.